All right, good afternoon, everyone. We will get started. Today is February 3rd, and today is going to be the February monthly call. My name is Misty Woods, and I will be conducting the call today. All right, first off, let's go over today's agenda. We do have some new things to discuss, but not a whole lot of new things to discuss. So we'll first go over the administrative reviews and procurement reviews where we're at for the school year. Then we'll go over some reminders about SSO compared to summer feeding program. We went over that at the state update, but I'm going to go over a few slides again just as reminders. Then we'll go over several memos that have been posted since the last call. If you remember correctly, we did not have a monthly call in January because of the state updates. So we have all the memos that have been posted since the December monthly call to go over. And then we'll talk about some upcoming training and events. And then we'll finally end with talking about the Louisiana Tray of the Week. All right, so let's talk about administrative and procurement reviews for a minute. So for this current school year, 25-26, we had 38 administrative reviews and procurement reviews to conduct. CNR on-site reviews have now been completed, and LDOE actually has two left, one actually happening as we speak, and then we have one in March. The reason why CNR has completed their on-site reviews so quickly is because their contract actually ends on April 30th. So all of their reviews need to be completed and closed out by that April 30th date. Um, just a little bit side note for this for a follow-up reviews, and we'll talk about that in a couple of slides. Meaning LDOE, is planning to complete those follow-up reviews for those SFAs that were deemed high risk last school year. So if you were deemed high risk in the 24-25 school year, we're planning to complete those follow-up reviews this school year between March, like mid-March into May. So prior, we were talking about if we have enough time. It appears we will have enough time to do as many as we possibly can the end of this school year so that we can finalize and close out those reviews as well. You will be notified prior to that follow-up review. So that should be coming soon. If you were deemed high risk last school year, you should be receiving a notification soon regarding a follow-up review. That's going to take place this school year. So we still have some people asking, not sure about when their review is going to actually take place. If you are unsure what year, you can always go to our website and look for the administrative review schedule. It's under the School Food Service Resources section. It's actually the whole 5-year cycle. Now, of course, it is subject to change at times, but that is the current 5-year cycle that we have. And as you remember, we have been approved for that 5-year cycle. And so part of that means that we have to conduct targeted follow-up reviews of any SFA that has been deemed high risk within 2 years of the administrative review. We actually, and I'll go over it in the next slide, is the way we determine that you're high risk is based off the different modules of the review. So some findings automatically identify the SFA as high risk, especially if it's a repeat finding. These findings are given the maximum points and required to ensure that the SFA is identified as high risk where that violation occurred. We do have high risk point thresholds for each module. All modules is a 5 point. There is one module that's 3 points, but most modules, if you get to 5 points, that means you are deemed high risk in that particular module. So as I explained just now, this is the different modules that we have. We have Performance Standard 1, we have 3 underneath there, Performance Standard 2, 1 underneath that one, and then all the general areas have different modules, and then Procurement Review is a separate module. So what happens is once you have your administrative review is conducted, you receive your summary of findings. Then once you receive your summary of findings, you submit your corrective action. Then after all of that is deemed as approved, you will receive a closure letter. And then normally within a couple of days of your closure letter, whether that closure letter came from CNR or whether it came from LDOE, if you were deemed high risk, you will receive a high risk letter. It'll come from me in the form of an email, and it basically will tell you these are the modules that you were deemed high risk and that we will be following up within 2 years. So let's talk a little bit about the follow-up reviews. So the follow-up reviews will only be conducted in the areas that are flagged high risk. So when I say you're getting a follow-up review, you will not be getting a complete review again. You will just be getting a follow-up just on those modules. So if you were, let's say, high risk in meal pattern, which is a common one, you will only receive a review on the meal pattern. We will only do a menu review. We will not do everything else at the same time. We would just focus on that menu review that you are high risk on. And again, the plan is that LDOE will be conducting all follow-up reviews. We are considering a hybrid approach for those follow-up reviews, meaning that it may be conducted completely all off-site, like as a desk audit, or it may be a combination of on-site and off-site. This will be on a case-by-case basis. So if you, let's say you only had meal pattern findings where you can prove to us that those corrections have been made, then it can be due off-site. However, if you had issues with offer versus serve or point of service, things like that, it would mean that we would have to come out to do a meal observation in addition to checking your menus for that follow-up review. One thing I do want to note, and again, this will also be on a case-by-case basis, is for repeat findings. So let's say we go out and it's still not corrected. At that point, it has become a repeat finding. So we do have the discretion as a state agency to apply fiscal action at that point. We may consider withholding program payments in part or in whole to any SFA for repeated findings that are not corrected. Again, this will be on a case-by-case basis. We'll evaluate the reason for that repeat finding and determine if it in fact needs to have a fiscal action attached to it. Okay, again, we talked about this at the state update, but I want to go over again the differences between SSO and SFSP that were discussed at the state update because both of those trainings are coming up soon and where you need to make a determination which route, if you are going to do some type of summer feeding, which one you're going to do, seamless summer or summer feeding. So let's talk about seamless summer first. So, as a school board authority, if you're participating in the National School Lunch and Breakfast, you are eligible to apply for the seamless summer option. It's the waiver that you do. In this option, you will continue the same meal service rules, the same claiming procedures used during a regular school year. Meals are reimbursed at the free rate for school lunches and school breakfasts, which are slightly lower than those summer food service program rates. It does have less paperwork, so it makes it easier for schools to feed those children during the summer months. And it enables SFAs to provide free summer meals to those low income areas during those summer months. So the only thing different about Seamless compared to the traditional lunch is that if you are a free, reduced, and paid school site, you could be all free. You'll be serving all free meals during the summer. So regarding the reimbursements for SSO, like I had just said, they are the same as your current national school lunch and breakfast reimbursements during the school year. So if you normally receive severe need, you will continue those same rates during the SSO operation. So in May and June, you're going to receive the current school year reimbursement rates. But during the month of July and potentially August, if you go into August, you will receive the new school year reimbursement rates. But again, it'd be the same reimbursement rates as you currently receive for school lunch and school breakfast. So regarding the meal pattern, you must continue to offer the menus that are in compliance with school breakfast and school lunch meal pattern requirements. This is the big difference when it comes to the summer feeding program, because that summer feeding program provides flexibility in the meal pattern where SSO does not. Most sponsors that do SSO, they choose to continue to offer the same menus that they provide during the school year, so that is an easy transition. Offer versus serve is still a requirement for high schools at lunch. It's optional for all other grade levels at lunch and optional at all grade levels at breakfast. So meal service with SSO, same thing. There are designated meal period times. Breakfast meal service must occur in the morning hours close to the beginning of the school day or the day, not necessarily school day, but beginning of the day. And then lunch meal service must occur between 10 and 2. So that basically has to follow the same thing as school lunch and school breakfast as regulation states. Point of service must be provided at each meal. That's also important. That's the same as for school breakfast and school lunch. You can continue to utilize the same point of service methods that are used during the school year, using the same processes that staff are familiar with. However, there is that option to do a manual process should the SFA choose to do so, like rosters, hash mark sheets, etc. And due to that area eligibility, children do receive free meals through the SSO waiver. And then let's talk about the administrative reviews for SSO. So we as the state agency must conduct administrative reviews on all SFAs that participate in Seamless Summer at least once during that 5-year review cycle. So reviews of the SSO occur when SSO is in operation. So obviously we would have to do it during those summer months when you're operating. During that on-site portion of the review, state agency staff will observe meal service at one or more of your sites, and USDA requires that SSO sponsors receive their review either the summer immediately before your administrative review is scheduled or the summer immediately following your administrative review. So if you're choosing to do SSO this summer, if you had a review, a regular administrative review this year, or if you have a review scheduled for next year, if you didn't have your SSO review last year, you're going to have it this summer. So always remember that your SSO is either going to be, your review for SSO is going to be right before your administrative review or right after your administrative review. And these reviews are very simple, but it still has to occur. So if you are planning to operate Seamless Summer, please ensure you attend that upcoming training that is taking place on February 24th at 1 o'clock, and it has been posted to Louisiana Fit Kids. You can register for that as soon as possible. Again, this is for those SFAs that are wanting to basically continue on with your current practices, the way you're operating now. If you want to continue to do that the same way, you would choose to do SSO. Okay, so let's briefly talk about the summer food service program. So, in a nutshell, to operate the summer feeding program, school food authorities must currently be in good standing for national school lunch and school breakfast. So SFAs can choose to participate in the summer feeding program, or like I said, they could choose to do SSO. Either one is your decision. When operating in the summer feeding program, SFAs will be reimbursed at the SFSP rates, which are usually higher. They exceed the NSLP and school breakfast rates. So you would have higher reimbursements in this program. Meals must meet component and portion size requirements as SFAs have the option to utilize either the National School Lunch and Breakfast Meal Pattern or they can use the SFSP meal pattern, which is slightly different, but it has a little bit more flexibility. But you still have to meet all those requirements. And there are multiple site types and, and where the sites can be located as long as it's in a safe and supervised setting. And those are listed on these slides. So you have a little bit more flexibility when it comes to this program. So for SFSP, there are several things that require state agency approval first, and this is the important things. So whenever you decide to do SFSP, all of your sites must be approved prior to start of operation. That is a big one right there. Another thing that's very important is if a SFA is approved for congregate meal service, meaning they must be consumed on site, meals served away from the approved locations without state agency approval will be disallowed. So if those children take meals off site, meals cannot be claimed. And then lastly, SFAs must have approved non-congregate feeding sites established and approved with the CNP system before non-congregate meal service begins. So non-congregate is whenever you're not consuming meals on site. This is one thing that is different. The summer feeding program will allow non-congregate, well, for SSO, we do not have an option for non-congregate in SSO. So here's the trainings that are scheduled for SFSP. Please register and attend one of the training sessions listed for more information, for more detailed information. One thing I do want to note, and we talked about this at the state update as well, is if you are an SFA currently operating the National School Lunch Program, even if you've never operated the summer feeding program before, you should still plan to attend that returning sponsor training. The prospective new sponsor training is from someone who's never operated like child nutrition programs before. So because you are a current SFA operating NSLP, you should plan to attend that returning sponsors training. And again, this is posted on Louisiana Fit Kids. Remember, when you're going to register on Louisiana Fit Kids website, you would register under the summer feeding section for these summer feeding trainings, not under the school food service section. And again, these summer feeding trainings are actually in person. Now, SSO training is going to be virtual, but these summer feeding trainings are in person at the Claiborne building here at LDOE. Okay, let's go over some memos. Like I said, we have several memos to go over, as you can see on this list. So the first one is about the Team Nutrition Leadership Institute. I do have another slide later on with some more information about this, but the Team Nutrition does have two upcoming training opportunities. It's a 3-day training for managers and other rising leaders in school nutrition. The training is going to provide a hands-on culinary and leadership skills training. It will have recipes. It will, have scratch cooking and efficiency tips. Each section is limited to 30 people, and all participants have to attend all 3 days. The districts can register a maximum of 3 people per district initially, but more spaces may open up depending on availability. There is a cost associated with this training. It is $60 per person. The first training is in February, so it's February 24th through the 26th at LSU here in Baton Rouge. The second training will be March 3rd through the 6th in Ruston at Louisiana Tech. And this is the one up in Ruston that we really need people to register for. If you're planning to attend this, please make sure you register. Our Baton Rouge is filling up pretty good, but we really need people up north that are interested. If they want to register, please make sure you register so that we can ensure that you have a spot and we can ensure that this training can take place. So if you go to Louisiana Fit Kids, the registration is there. If you have any questions or you're not sure about something, you can always email Louisiana Fit Kids. That email is on here. Actually, I have it's on the slides and the notes. It's louisianafitkids@pbrc.edu. And Kathy Carmichael would also be more than willing to answer any questions you may have about this as well. Okay, so the second memo, we kind of briefed about this at the state update as well. It's on the updated federal micro purchase and simplified acquisition thresholds. So this was an announcement that provided notification that procurement thresholds have been updated by the Office of Management and Budget that became effective October 1st. So the final rule at 90 FR 41872 actually amends the Federal Acquisition Regulation, also known as FAR, to further implement a statute that requires an adjustment every 5 years of statutory acquisition-related thresholds for inflation. So these thresholds administered under federal awards are referenced in the 48 CFR 2.101. And again, it started on October 1st. So the federal, and again, this is the federal thresholds. The federal micro purchase threshold increased from 10,000 to 15,000, and the federal simplified acquisition threshold increased from 250,000 to 350,000. State agencies and program operators are reminded to continue referencing the federal procurement regulations at 2 CFR 200, which cite those regulations. This update applies to all child nutrition programs, so it applies to NSLP, school breakfast, CACFP, and the summer food service program. Just a reminder, though, that state and local agencies continue to possess the authority to set lower micro-purchase and simplified acquisition thresholds, thereby imposing more restrictive procurement requirements. If the state has not set a lower threshold, then local program operators may set higher limits in line with the regulations. So again, and I do have a notification that this supersedes the previous memos that have been sent. But again, we don't have, remember, our federal, except for charter schools, for regular schools, not charter schools, we can't use the 200, or now it's 350 threshold. We have the $60,000 threshold when it comes to formal procurement. So just note now, one thing also to consider, the regulations were changed as of October 1st. Just remember that you are supposed to be following what your current plan has, what your current procurement plan has. If you update your procurement plan to reflect this, you can, but current, if it's not, you should still be following what your current procurement plan says that you are following until you update it. Okay, the next memo was a simple reminder that the November SNAP and TANF files were loaded. They did all the matches. They were loaded to eScholar, and the district should resolve the near matches that of the batches that are listed for both public and non-public. There is one slight change for now, that if you need assistance, you're supposed to be emailing Wongon, I think is how you pronounce his name. It used to be Jane, but Jane is no longer with LDOE. So this is the new contact if you have issues related to direct match in eScholar. The next memo was about the November Medicaid free lunch and Medicaid reduced lunch files that were loaded onto eScholar Direct Match. Again, districts should resolve the near matches in those batches that are listed for both public and non-public schools. And again, if you need assistance, you can email Wongon. The next memo was a simple memo about a reminding for everybody to attend the state update that took place on January 14th at Pennington. If you were not in attendance for that meeting, the presentation slides are on Louisiana Fit Kids website. This memo, the next one, was about the Turn Up a Beats Award. It was some information. So USDA Food Nutrition Services announced the availability of the 2025 Turn Up the Beat informational webinar. It was a slide deck that we were posted, and this is referring to summer feeding. The presentation provides an overview of the Turn Up the Beat Awards, including program background, the application and review process, the nomination packet, components, timelines, and tips for submitting an application. You can always refer to the Turn Up the Beat website if you need more information. And those nomination packets were due to the USDA regional office by Friday, January 23rd. And if I remember correctly, I believe we had at least 2 SFAs submit things, but I would have to double check with Toya, who was over summer feeding, to make sure that that was the only 2. All right. Farm to School, Louisiana Farm to School, they asked us to post this for them. So currently there is a call for applicants for the 26-27 cohort of the Louisiana Farm to School Institute. Louisiana Farm to School, that institute is an intensive, it's a year-long learning opportunity to assist schools and community teams to strengthen and expand their farm to school program. So how does a team apply for this institute? First thing you need to do, you can build a farm to school planning team, which could be 4 to 6 members. That includes school administrators, child nutrition staff, classroom teachers, things like that, or people like that. Teams can represent a single school, or it can be multi sites, or it can even be an entire school district. Then you're going to download and review the Farm to School rubric and the application worksheet before you begin that online application. And then you would need to complete that online application by Friday, February 13th, and that'll be here very soon. Again, that application period does close on Friday, February 13th, and then the selected teams will be announced in March 2026. And we also have in the notes where you can refer to the Louisiana, the link is in the notes, refer to Louisiana Farm to School website, or if you have questions, you can contact the Farm to School Institute, and the email address is linked on there. All right, the next memo was about the February training. So again, today is the CNP monthly call for February. And then on February 24th, we will have our seamless summer training that will take place via Zoom. Both are on, well, actually, I should say both, but Seamless Summer is now on the Louisiana Fit Kids website to register. And as always, all the training recordings and slides are posted within a week after the live presentation. Most of the time it's less than a week, but we like to say at least a week, within a week after the trainings. All right, so let's talk about this memo. We have a lot to discuss on this one. This was one that came as a USDA memo regarding whole milk. So it basically talks about the implementation requirements for the National School Lunch Program. So on January 14th, President Trump signed into law the Whole Milk for Healthy Kids Act of 2025. This law amends Section 9A2A of the National School Lunch Act, revising the requirements for milk provided through the National School Lunch Program. So the Whole Milk for Healthy Kids Act of 2025 modifies the restrictions and permits schools to offer students expanded fluid milk options. Again, I want to reiterate that this amendment currently as it stands only applies to National School Lunch Program. It does not include breakfast at this time. It only applies to National School Lunch. So effective immediately, schools participating in National School Lunch may, and I say may because this is not a requirement, it's giving you an option. You may offer students at lunch the following fluid milk options. So you can serve whole milk, reduced fat, which is 2%, low fat 1%, and fat-free fluid milk and lactose-free fluid milk and non-dairy beverages that are nutritionally equivalent to fluid milk and meet the USDA nutritional standards for fluid milk substitutes. Milk varieties may be unflavored or flavored, provided that the unflavored milk is offered at each meal service and that the flavored milk does not exceed that added sugar limits. The Whole Milk for Healthy Kids Act of 2025 also modifies the requirement to exclude milk only from the weekly limit for saturated fat. So therefore, effective immediately, schools may exclude the saturated fat from that fluid milk only when calculating that weekly average saturated fat requirement. All of your other dietary specifications, which is like your calories, sodium, and added sugars, still apply to the entire reimbursable meal, and the contribution from the fluid milk must be included for those calculations. So the only thing is the saturated fat, that you're not counting that milk toward that saturated fat average for the week. Again, this is where the memo is, and this is where the amendment is. USDA, Food Nutrition Services, will update regulations throughout the rulemaking process to reflect those changes. Additional technical assistance and guidance will be provided and updated as we receive anything further from USDA. So in the meantime, when you do have a time, if you haven't already, please print this memo out or look at this memo. Make sure you're understanding all of it. This is just in a nutshell of what the memo talked about. So again, we did have some questions about this. It was some people thought that you had to offer it at this point. It's giving you an option you may offer, but you don't have to at this point. Okay, the next memo was about the December Medicaid free lunch and Medicaid reduced lunch. So again, everything has been loaded into eScholar, and those districts, both public and non-public, should resolve the near matches in the batches that were listed below on this screen. And again, if you need assistance, please email Wongon. All right, last memo, I believe. It's about the December SNAP and TANF files that are loaded to eScholar. Again, this is we had November and now we have December for the SNAP and TANF files. Districts need to resolve those new matches that are listed. And again, email Wongon if you need assistance with any of that. All right, so let's talk about some trainings and events that are coming up. We do have several of those as well. So we just talked about the February trainings, how today's the February monthly call, and on February 24th, we have the SSO training. March 3rd will be our March monthly call. Then on March 10th, we will have our training, our first training on CEP, which will be about the CEP population data. Then in April, we will have a monthly call on April 7th. Now we understand this may fall on some people's some SFA's Easter or spring break, but as a reminder, the recording and slides will be posted on Louisiana Fit Kids website. And the reason why we chose to continue to have the call in April, even though we do have the state update that month, is because on the April 22nd, at our next in-person update, we plan to focus heavily on the administrative review for the state update. So we want to spend a lot of time focusing on administrative review and training on that rather than doing a traditional state update because we had a lot of people requesting. On May 3rd will be our May monthly call. And then on May 12th will be the CEP elections training. So it'll be our second training on CEP, but it will focus on the CEP elections part. And you can register on Louisiana Fit Kids website whenever these trainings become available. We normally try to post them about a month in advance, especially for the Zoom calls, state update and things like that. We try to post a little bit sooner, but again, usually about a month in advance. One thing to note about upcoming LDOE trainings that I wanted to add is that the Division of Nutrition Support will be switching meeting platforms. So starting in March, our trainings are going to be conducted through Microsoft Teams rather than Zoom, but everything else will stay the same. You're still going to register for trainings on Louisiana Fit Kids. Everything will still be posted to Louisiana Fit Kids after. It's just that we will be presenting on Microsoft Teams instead of Zoom. I know we went over this already too, but I wanted to include it again. Make sure that if you are planning to do the summer food service program, that you attend the appropriate training either on February 20th, which would be for prospective new sponsors, but the majority of you should expect to attend on March 3rd for the returning sponsors option. So let's talk about National School Breakfast Week. National School Breakfast Week is March 2nd through the 6th. This year's theme is the quest for school breakfast. It's a way to celebrate the importance of a nutritious school breakfast in fueling students for success. This is a special observance during the first week of March, celebrates that National School Breakfast program and the many ways that kids get a great start to their day. So you can always refer to the School Nutrition Association's website for more information about that National School Breakfast Week. And if you do participate in things like that, you can always send us your photos and things that you've done because we're always like to share things with our USDA regional office. And sometimes they even ask us, hey, is somebody doing something great for either National School Lunch, National School Breakfast Week? And sometimes they want to come out there and visit just to see everything, the good things that you're doing in your school district. So Louisiana School Lunch Week is not far after that. That's March 16th through the 20th. The theme for this one is Magic of School Lunch. And this is a way to celebrate the magic in every school lunch, the power of nutrition, and the amazing professionals that make it happen. So SNAL Louisiana School Lunch Week does have a media kit that includes letters to families, the Louisiana School Lunch Week logos, some printable flyers, some ready-to-use social media graphics, and even some ready-to-use captions for social media. Again, if you need more information on this, you can refer to the School Nutrition Association of Louisiana's website to get more information about Louisiana School Lunch Week. Okay, so let's talk about manager trainings that are going to be coming up. So, virtual manager training is going to be in June. It's going to be June 22nd through the 24th. The first 2 days are going to be full days of training from 8 to 4:30. The second day from 8:30 to 12 will be training, and then from 1:30 to 4 will be the assessment. So 2 full days of training, and then the third day will be half a day training, half a day the assessment. So to register, which is available on Louisiana Fit Kids now, the participant must have their own email address. They must have their own computer and reliable internet service at the training location that they are doing. The computer must also have audio and video capability so that the participants can see and hear and participate in the training. The assessment is computerized, obviously, because it is a virtual training. Participants are required to be proctored by either the CNP director or someone that has been designated as the proctor. And SFAs may wish to host that assessment in a computer lab on site if you have such means for it. If you do register for this training, the link to that virtual site will be sent to each participant, the SFA, and the proctor approximately a week before the start of the training. So again, this is available to register for on Louisiana Fit Kids. We do not necessarily have a cutoff of the amount of people that can attend this virtual trainer. So please, if you're planning or wanting to send staff to this, please make sure that they are registered for it. So the in-person manager training is going to be in July, and that's going to be July 6th through the 8th. This in-person training will be held at Pennington. However, this is a training that a lot of people forget to register for, and it's too late because there is a limit of 40 people for this in-person training. There is a cost associated with this. There's an $80 registration fee. And again, this is registration that we're probably going to post sometime in April. So look for it closer to April. So if you want someone to attend this training, make sure you check back in April and you register as soon as you see that it's available because these spots do fill up quickly. We have more information that'll come, more details whenever the registration is posted. But again, that'll be closer to sometime in April. But mark your calendars so you know. All right, new director training. So if you are a new director, please save this date, July 21st and 22nd. We are having a new director training. It'll be at Pennington. We are in the process of still developing this training. We're planning to have it very similar to that introduction to school nutrition leadership training that ICN does offer, but we're actually tweaking it to make it more of our own. This training will be specific for new directors with less than 2 years, but we can say up to 5 years potentially experience. And then registration for that will be posted to Louisiana Fit Kids in the upcoming months. So we will have more information when that's posted. But again, if you are a new director, please mark this on your calendar and plan to attend. It'll be 2 full days of training specific for new directors. We talked about this earlier, but I want to reiterate the fact that we do have these 2 Team Nutrition Leadership Institute trainings that are coming up. We really want to get both of these trainings filled up. We have to have up to 30 people in each session. So again, if you're wanting to attend if you want to send one of your staff, I should say, to one of these trainings in February or March, please register on Louisiana Fit Kids as soon as possible so we can know how many people to expect Can we have this training or do we not have enough participants? We have to make sure we have enough people in order to have these trainings. Again, if you have questions, please reach out to Louisiana Fit Kids. Another thing I want to bring up is if let's say you registered for a training and you figured out, oh, I can't make it, something happened, especially if it's going to be one of those in-person ones. So if you registered for a training and you're now unable to attend, you can update or cancel your registration at any time. All you need to do is refer back to that email confirmation that you received when you registered. You just click on that update or cancel meeting registration, and then it will take you to the Louisiana Fit Kids website where you can update or cancel your registration. And then you'll receive another email confirmation of that update or that cancellation. So this helps a lot whenever we're doing in-person trainings to know how many to expect and things like that. So if you are able to let us know when you're not able to attend a training, please go on and either cancel that registration for us. Okay. We've been talking about this every month, and Kathy and I have met a few times about this. It's going really well, but we are in need, or Kathy is in need of some more pictures for Louisiana Trait of the Week. This does continue through May 15th, so it continues out the entire school year. And it's a really good way to recognize and celebrate your school nutrition staff by showing their quality and creativity and appeal of the meals that they're serving. It's also a way to boost that community pride and improve that public perceptions. So you can send your emails to Kathy Carmichael at pbrc.edu, or you can send it to Louisiana Fit Kids at pbrc.edu. Schools and districts, so you can do an individual school or a school district can across Louisiana, they can participate. Each week, the selected trays are featured on Louisiana Fit Kids social media platforms. And actually, it looks like Kathy has posted some in the chat, a link to where you can send your tray pictures as well as the gallery of the current pictures that we have received. So, like we just talked about, what do you need to do to take part of this campaign? It's very simple. Submit your tray photos to Louisiana Fit Kids or to Kathy Carmichael. Make sure that your tray meets the meal pattern requirements by completely clearly showing all of the components that you're offering. Include a short description, indicate the school where the meal was served, provide the date that you served that meal, and just as a reminder that food should be attractively plated on that tray and photographed. And a tray also must be an accurate representation of what you're serving and what a student can actually select. And here are some tips when you're photographing your tray. So you don't want to be too close, you don't want to be too high, you just want to be right at that correct, like away from it, but just at a right angle. So it really shows what you're serving. Okay, so with that, I will open up if anybody has questions. Let me check the chat. I see we have a couple of things in the chat. So yes, we do have a comment about whole milk and if it's only for NSLP, how will students, teachers, and parents understand the difference? I agree with that comment. That's why we're waiting for further USDA guidance and that they will be updating regulations. But currently, the way it's stated, it is only NSLP. The next question or comment about strongly encouraging whole milk, there's nowhere where it says we have to strongly encourage. It just says that SFAs may offer the whole milk, 2% milk, etc. It doesn't say that we have either way. At least we have not received guidance yet to say that we should strongly encourage. At this point, if you choose to do it, you can. If you choose not to, you don't have to. Okay, any other questions? Okay, I am not seeing any other questions at this time. Again, these slides and recording will be posted to Louisiana Fit Kids probably within a couple of days. If you were unable to attend the state update, you can always refer back to those training slides as well. SSO training is next this month, and then starting in March, we will be on Teams whenever we're presenting the calls. With that, I will end today's call. Thanks everybody for attending, and we will see you next month.